Okay, so picture this. It's 2008.
Right?
Someone walks into a clinic, makes a sperm donation. Seems like a simple, positive thing, helping families.
Absolutely. A gesture of hope.
But now, fast forward to today, 2025.
Mm.
And that one single act, well, it's sort of blown up into this huge medical and, frankly, ethical crisis across Europe.
It really has. We're talking about one person, one donation, leading to
What's
67 children.
67?
That number is just staggering. And the core issue is this hidden genetic problem, right?
Yeah.
Something linked to cancer.
Exactly. A rare mutation he carried, completely unknowingly, that significantly increases cancer risk. And now dozens of families are reeling from this discovery.
It sounds like something out of a movie, honestly.
It really does. A well-meaning act just uncovering this fragility in the system maybe we didn't fully appreciate.
So for this deep dive, our mission, yours and mine and everyone listening, is to really unpack this. Yeah, we want to guide you through it. Look at the science, but keep it clear, Then the ethics, the gaps in the rules that let this happen, and crucially, the human stories behind it all.
Without needing a PhD in genetics to follow along.
Exactly. Just the key takeaways.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning of the discovery. How did this even surface? It wasn't just a random check, was it?
No, not at all. It started tragically, really. In 2025, two different families in different countries, no connection.
Okay.
Their young children were both diagnosed with rare cancers. And during the genetic investigations for those kids, which is pretty standard in these rare cases.
They look for genetic causes, yeah.
Right. They found this shared, very unusual mutation in a gene called TP53.
Ah, TP53, that sounds familiar. Isn't that like a really important gene for preventing cancer?
You got it. It's often called the guardian of the genome. Think of it like the body's chief quality control manager.
Okay, a manager, I like that.
Its job is to spot damaged cells and either fix them or tell them to, self-destruct before they become cancerous.
So a mutation means the manager is asleep at the wheel, or maybe has a blindfold on.
Something like that. Maybe a blindfold and sipping some wine, not noticing the problems piling up. The mutation means it can't do its job properly, so the risk of cancer goes way up.
And this specific problem is linked to something called Li-Fraumeni syndrome.
Yes, Li-Fraumeni syndrome, or LFS. It's a rare inherited disorder directly tied to these TP53 mutations.
And what does that mean for people who have it?
It means a dramatically higher lifetime risk of developing a whole range of cancers, leukemias, sarcomas, breast cancer, brain tumors, often at a much younger age than usual, childhood even.
Gosh, that's heavy. So how did the researchers confirm this specific mutation was the problem? It wasn't just a guess.
Oh, definitely not. This was serious scientific work, led by Dr. Edwidge Casper over at Rouen University Hospital in France.
What did her team do?
Well, they did a few key things. They compared this specific variant against huge genetic databases to see just how rare it was. They used computer models, prediction tools, to figure out how this change would likely affect the TP53 protein's function.
Makes sense.
And critically, they did lab tests, functional trials, to actually see how this mutated protein behaved compared to the normal one.
So like testing the manager's performance directly?
Pretty much. And all that evidence pointed very strongly to this specific mutation being pathogenic, meaning cancer-causing.
It has just profound implications for these kids. It's not just a risk on paper.
Absolutely not. It changes everything. For the children who inherited this, it means a lifetime of genetic counseling, trying to understand and manage the risk.
And constant checkups, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Really intensive screening. We're talking annual whole-body MRIs, regular brain scans, specific ultrasounds as they get older for things like breast or abdominal cancers, constant vigilance.
It casts such a shadow. Which brings us back to the big question. How did this happen in the first place? Wasn't the donor screened back in 2008?
That's the crux of it, isn't it? And where a lot of the anger and confusion comes from. The European Sperm Bank says yes, he was screened according to the standards back then. But their spokesperson, Julie Pauly-Butts, basically said this specific TP53 mutation wasn't on the list of things they screened for. It wasn't recognized as a high-risk variant in that context at the time.
So the argument is we couldn't look for something we didn't know was a problem.
Essentially, yes. That it was scientifically impossible to detect disease-causing mutations if you don't know what you're looking for, as they put it, which highlights how much genetics has evolved since 2008.
And the donor himself, is he okay? Does he even know?
Reportedly, he's healthy.
Yeah.
And incredibly likely unaware of this whole situation that unfolded from his donations years ago.
Wow. That adds another layer of just complexity. Someone tried to do good, and this is the result.
It really underscores the limits of knowledge at any given time and the potential for unintended consequences in reproductive technology.
So it makes you think, right, with genetic tech now, shouldn't we be doing more? Why not just sequence the whole genome of every donor?
That's the logical question everyone's asking now, and it's a huge debate. The tech is there, but doing whole genome sequencing routinely,
Yeah.
it's still really expensive and time-consuming.
The analysis takes time, too, I bet.
Exactly. Dr. Casper even kind of joked it would have required a sci-fi budget back then, and it's still a major hurdle now.
But this case forces the issue, doesn't it? Maybe the current system isn't enough.
It absolutely does. When you see one donor impacting potentially 67 lives across borders,
Yeah.
you have to ask if the screening is good enough.
Yeah, that number, 67 children. It's not just one or two isolated cases. It's massive.
It really is. And it throws the whole issue of donor limits into stark relief.
Okay, let's talk about those limits. What are they?
Well, the European Sperm Bank, where this donor was registered, has its own internal guideline. Yeah. A maximum of 75 families per donor.
75 families. That still sounds like a lot.
It can be, because families is the key word. A donor can lead to multiple children within one family.
Ah, I see. So 75 families could mean way more than 75 kids.
Exactly. In this case, it was 46 families resulting in at least 67 children, spread across 8 different European countries.
8 countries. And how does that compare to, say, the UK? Don't they have stricter rules?
They do. The UK has a legal limit, not just a guideline, of 10 families per donor. Maximum.
10 versus 75, that's a huge difference.
It highlights a massive variation in approach across Europe.
And Dr. Casper, the researcher, she had some strong words about this at that conference in Milan.
And she did not hold back. She basically said, look, we urgently need a Europe-wide legal limit. What's happening here is the abnormal dissemination of a genetic disease.
Abnormal dissemination. Strong phrase.
Yeah. She pointed out it's just not normal for one person to have potentially 75 children spread across a continent, especially when carrying a serious genetic risk. You can almost hear the sarcasm, the frustration.
It really highlights how fragmented the rules are. There's no single European standard.
Not at all. It's a total patchwork. You mentioned the UK's 10 families. The Netherlands, for another example, has a limit of 25 children per donor. Some places might not have clear limits.
Which makes it easy for sperm to cross borders without much tracking.
Precisely. It creates this system where sperm moves internationally, but the oversight and tracking are lagging behind. Professor Nikki Hudson called it a huge challenge of tracing families when something like this happens.
A logistical nightmare trying to find everyone.
An immense one. Different countries, different privacy laws, no central database. It makes reacting to a discovered risk incredibly difficult and slow.
And behind all the science and regulations, there are these families. The human cost must be just immense.
Oh, completely. Imagine the emotional roller coaster. The joy of having your child turns into this crushing anxiety, this fear for their future health.
There must be anger, too. Betrayal.
Absolutely. A loss of trust in the system they relied on. Maybe even unfairly some feelings of guilt, even though they did nothing wrong.
It's heartbreaking. Are they connecting with each other? The families?
Some are, yes. Trying to find support, share information, just connect with others who truly understand what they're going through. It's a natural response to feel less isolated.
And the European Sperm Bank. What have they done beyond saying screening was limited back then?
They've confirmed they notified the clinics that received the sperm from this donor, but they've been quite cagey about releasing exact numbers of families or children affected, citing privacy rules.
So sympathy, but maybe not full transparency.
They've expressed sympathy, yes, but as you can imagine, that doesn't really undo the damage or alleviate the family's fears.
Does this leave the parents with any legal options? Can they sue?
It's very likely some will explore that. They might argue negligence, that the screening wasn't adequate even by 2008 standards, or that informed consent wasn't properly obtained.
Meaning they weren't warned about potential unknown risks?
Exactly. That the uncertainties weren't made clear enough. Fertility law specialists are advising many of them now.
This whole thing really puts the spotlight on the entire fertility industry, doesn't it? It's so important for so many people.
It really is. Assisted reproduction helps build so many families across all different structures. But this case is a massive wake-up call about responsibility.
A need for more careful stewardship.
Definitely. You need rigorous oversight, ethical standards front and center, always prioritizing the long-term health of the children conceived. Someone used the analogy of a toddler driving a Ferrari to describe the current risk level without better controls.
Wow. And think about the kids themselves, the donor-conceived individuals. Finding out you have potentially 66 half-siblings, some with serious health issues linked to your shared genetics.
The psychological weight must be enormous. How do you process that? Questions about identity, family, your own health risks. It's like living in a complex, real-life drama, as you put it.
And this isn't the only case like this, is it? Haven't there been others?
Unfortunately, no. It's not totally isolated. There was a major case in the Netherlands, a donor fathering over 550 children before he was stopped.
550.
Yes. And another in the U.S., a donor with a known genetic heart defect conceiving at least 24 kids. These situations keep happening, underscoring the urgent need for better, more consistent international rules.
So, what are the proposed fixes? What needs to change to stop this happening again?
Well, Dr. Casper and others are pushing hard for that Europe-wide legal cap on families per donor, something much closer to the UK's limit of 10.
A legally binding limit, not just a guideline.
Exactly. And alongside that, much better international tracking systems. So if a risk is found later, you can actually trace and inform the families quickly and effectively.
Has the European Sperm Bank said they support this?
Yes, their spokesperson did say they support an international family limit. They claim they've been advocating for it for a while.
Okay, support is one thing, action is another.
Precisely. The ball is really in the court of the regulators, the EU governing bodies, to make binding rules happen.
And what about genetic testing? Can technology help prevent this in the future?
It definitely has a role. Maybe not routine whole genome sequencing for everyone just yet because of the challenges we talked about.
Right, the cost and time.
But we could implement much better targeted screening panels, looking specifically for known high-risk mutations, like this TP53 one, and others that cause serious conditions.
So not looking for everything, but looking much harder for the really dangerous stuff we do know about.
Exactly. It wouldn't be perfect. We're always learning more about genetics,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be a huge step up in safety.
But for now, for these 67 kids and their families, the focus has to be on managing the here and now.
Absolutely. For those who inherited the mutation, it's about that lifelong vigilance, the screenings for early cancer detection, and crucially, getting ongoing genetic counseling and psychological support to navigate this incredibly difficult reality.
And it's just wild to think about the donor and all this, likely acted with good intentions.
And had no idea the chain reaction it would set off years later. It's a stark reminder that good intentions aren't enough if the system itself has weaknesses.
So wrapping up this deep dive, what are the absolute key things we need to take away from this?
I think the biggest thing is seeing how one person's donation with a hidden genetic issue could spiral into such a massive situation because of gaps in the system. It exposes the real dangers of inconsistent rules, especially donor limits, and poor tracking across Europe.
The system itself enabled the scale of the problem.
Yes, and it screams for urgent change. Better oversight, stricter, harmonized limits that truly prioritize the child's well-being, and systems that actually work across borders.
It seems unavoidable now.
It has to be.
Okay, so here's something to leave you, our listeners, thinking about. As genetic testing gets cheaper, more powerful, and more accessible, and as fertility treatments become even more globalized, what responsibility do we all have, individuals, clinics, governments, to get ahead of these risks? How do we ensure ethical standards keep pace with the science, especially when we're talking about something as fundamental as creating families? It's a huge question for the future.